Well, we're going to be blockading. It'll take a little while, but it'll be effective pretty soon. We think that numerous countries are going to be helping us with this also, but we're putting on a complete blockade. We're not going to let Iran make money on selling oil to people that they like and not people that they don't like or whatever it is.
China has just issued its loudest warning yet on Donald Trump's Hormuz blockade. Hours after the US Navy formally began enforcing the blockade on April 13th, Chinese Defense Minister Admiral Dong Jun drew a direct line in public. He said Chinese ships are moving in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. He said China has trade and energy agreements with Iran and will respect and honor them. And he said other nations should not meddle in China's affairs. That is not diplomatic language. That is a warning. The blockade itself went into effect at 10 in the morning Eastern Time on Monday, following the collapse of 21 hours of peace talks in Islamabad. Trump's initial Truth Social post announced the US Navy would blockade any and all ships trying to enter or leave the strait entirely.
Now we have a blockade. They're doing no business. I didn't like seeing boats come out if they were doing business with Iran, but if they weren't, no boats came out. So now Iran is doing absolutely no business.
US Central Command's actual implementation was notably narrower, clarifying that the blockade would target vessels entering and exiting Iranian ports and coastal areas, but would not impede freedom of navigation for ships transiting to and from non-Iranian ports. That distinction matters because Chinese vessels heading to non-Iranian destinations technically fall outside the stated scope. Beijing's statement did not acknowledge that nuance. China's foreign ministry followed the defense minister with its own language, calling the US blockade a dangerous and irresponsible act that risks undermining an already fragile ceasefire.
This will only aggravate confrontation, escalate tension, undermine the already fragile ceasefire, and further jeopardize safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. It is a dangerous and irresponsible move.
The Strait of Hormuz is an important route for international goods and energy trade. Keeping it stable, safe, and unimpeded serves the common interests of the international community. The obstruction has its root cause in the conflict in Iran, and the only way out is a ceasefire and end of hostility at an early date. All sides should be calm and exercise restraint, and China stands ready to continue to play a positive and constructive role. Regarding the purchase of oil, China stands ready to work with all sides to safeguard the energy security and unimpeded supply industrial chain of the world. But the first thing we should do to solve this is to bring peace and stability back to the region.
Spokesman Guo Jiakun said the root cause of the disruption is the conflict itself, and that only a comprehensive ceasefire can resolve it. He urged all parties to remain calm, honor the ceasefire, and take practical actions to restore normal traffic. Reuters separately reported that a US-sanctioned Chinese tanker called the Rich Starry appeared to be the first vessel to pass through the strait since the blockade was announced, with marine traffic data showing it transiting on the morning of April 13th. A second sanctioned vessel, the Elpis, which had departed from the Iranian port of Bushehr, also passed through. Chinese ships were already moving before Beijing had finished talking. The parallel story that arrived alongside the diplomatic warning is potentially more explosive. A CNN report, citing 3 people familiar with US intelligence assessments, said Beijing is expected to deliver new air defense systems to Iran within the coming weeks. 2 sources told CNN that indications suggest Beijing is working to route the shipments through third countries to mask their origin. Reuters cited the CNN report and identified the weapons in question as shoulder-fired man-portable air defense systems, known as MANPAD. These are the same category of weapon Trump described when discussing the FF-15 that was shot down over Iran. He said what hit the aircraft was a shoulder-fired handheld heat-seeking missile, that the Iranians got lucky, and that the missile was sucked in right by the engine. He called it a very dangerous mission, and said he had been told there would be sacrifices. Whether any Chinese-made system was involved in that shoot-down remains unresolved. Beijing rejected the CNN reporting directly. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington said China has never provided weapons to any party to the conflict, that the information is untrue, and that as a responsible major country, China consistently fulfills its international obligations. The embassy urged the US side to refrain from making baseless allegations and engaging in sensationalism. Those are the two positions now on the record. US intelligence says one thing. The Chinese embassy says the opposite. Trump's response to both was to threaten a 50% tariff on any country supplying advanced defense equipment to Tehran, which was widely read as aimed directly at Beijing. Strategists at the Stimson Center put it plainly. China had been in talks with Iran over air defense systems before this war, they noted, and no one should be surprised that China will rearm and rebuild Iran down the road. The caveat was timing. With Trump's visit to China planned for next month, Beijing most likely will not take immediate moves. There is no need to spoil the momentum they have been building with Washington right now. That is the calculation. China's long game does not require a confrontation this week, but its position on Hormuz makes clear it is not going to step aside either. The structural picture behind all of this is worth stating plainly. Iran has supplied Russia with thousands of Shod drones and short-range ballistic missiles throughout the Ukraine war. In return, China buys the overwhelming majority of Iran's oil, providing Tehran with the revenue that funds its war machine. Russia supplies satellite intelligence and upgraded drone technology back to Iran. That network is how Iran has absorbed this conflict for 6 weeks without collapsing economically. The Hormuz blockade is aimed at one node of a system that has several. Cutting off Iran's oil exports hurts Tehran, but it also cuts China's supply. And Beijing has made clear that it treats its energy relationship with Iran as a sovereign decision, not a variable that Washington gets to adjust. The IMF weighed in on Monday as well, warning that the global economy faces a major test from the outbreak of war in the Middle East and projecting global growth slowing to 3.1% in 2026 if the conflict remains limited in scope. The IEA separately said oil prices posted their largest ever monthly gain in Shia March and described the disruption as the worst energy shock the world has ever seen, more severe than the 1970s oil crisis and the Ukraine war combined. Analysts have warned that the blockade, if fully enforced, could push Brent crude to $150 per barrel. The question that sits over all of this is whether the US is prepared to stop, board, or confront a Chinese vessel to enforce a blockade Trump initially described as covering every ship in the strait. CENTCOM narrower implementation leaves that confrontation technically avoidable for now. But China is already sending its ships through. The next move belongs to Washington.
Well, we're going to be blockading. It'll take a little while, but it'll be effective pretty soon. We think that numerous countries are going to be helping us with this also, but we're putting on a complete blockade. We're not going to let Iran make money on selling oil to people that they like and not people that they don't like or whatever it is.